Welcome everybody to E-Line Soccer Park, just north of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Day one action at the 2022 USA Ultimate College Championships. A Pool D battle here. 16th seed Auburn receiving against 9th seed Michigan Magnum. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday afternoon. Ian Toner alongside Tyler Kinley. As a first throw turnover, Auburn receives and Michigan's Zach Lloyd gets a hand on the disc on Magnum's first underneath pass. Auburn's first underneath pass, excuse me. Break opportunity here for Magnum. The story of the day so far here at E-Line Soccer Park has been the abnormally windy conditions. A mid-range shot to the goal line. Pavel Matza, eyes for the end zone, resets. James Baker Jr. into the end zone! And James Hill reels in the break, and Michigan takes a 1-0 lead.
It's hard to start a game better than that. Michigan Magnum getting an early block punching getting in it. I can't say enough about this win. That upwinder is huge to start this game. Magnum getting off to a wild, energetic start. I can tell you they want to win the energy battle, and they're going to have a fight. Auburn, known for being goofy. You can see their inflatable animals with them. Not the start that they wanted, but they walk back to the line. This Magnum team comes in, I would say, probably the most polished Magnum team maybe ever in terms of disc skill, and we saw it there. Jimmy Baker really had a great backhand into that wind. Any of those short field turns are a huge opportunity, and Magnum there slicing through this wind.
So Tyler, you've seen a couple other games so far this morning. These teams have battled against these wind conditions, perhaps not in the quite same field orientation. They played their earlier round games in fields that were perpendicular to this field so far. Our weather app is reading a 15-mile-an-hour wind. It does feel like Auburn will be receiving into the upwind direction here. What have you seen from the wind's impact on teams' abilities to execute offensively so far today?
Well, it's had different effects. Some teams have really opted to try to work it, to be patient, to not take shots. The opposite has been true when the winds picked up. We saw University of Washington's Tony Veneri just shooting over and over. That said, the wind is variable. Right now it's gusting. It's a little lower at the moment, but it's going to play a role throughout this whole game.
Will Bianca going up the line. Here's Luke Thomas with the disc for Auburn Itos. Thomas and Ashwin Pathakuchi discussing a call.
Ashwin often on the offensive line here, crossing over to play defense.
Throw off the line completed. And the continue goes to Bianca. Here's Brett Holzmeyer. He's been commuting from afar all season, only able to travel to tournaments with this Itos squad, but his size and frame and experience, such a huge part of Auburn's success.
This is a matchup that's going to be a joy to watch. Number 33 on Michigan, James Hill, probably one of the best defenders in the country, up against Holzmeyer, and there forcing a tough around throw, probably helped out with that mark from Hill.
Michigan with its second break opportunity in as many points here in the opening moments of the second pool play game for both of these squads. Inside shot, layout block on the goal line. Luke Thomas says no to a sure goal.
That shot from Theo Shapinski, another O-line stalwart for Michigan Magnum.
I beg your pardon, that was Brandon Beers on the block as Brett Holzmeyer gets the up line. You can see him gesturing to his teammates downfield. The Scoober off the line connects with Thomas. Thomas uncorks one, but this one's going to hang up there in the wind. A dog pile forming underneath. Halsmeyer can't come down with it. The Michigan Magnum defender getting his hand on it, and here's another break opportunity for Magnum. Their second of this point and third of the game. Deep shot here. Owen O'Neill, the shortest man on the field, has the break for Michigan Magnum.
An incredibly strong start. The difference between this game and a lot of games previous is the energy from the start. Magnum asserting itself. Both teams playing hot. Brandon Beers getting an early layout block to try to maintain possession, but that floaty disc just not connecting to Halsmeyer, and here Magnum another break. The throw down the line there from Robert Burridge, one of the best disc golfers in the state of Michigan. He is a D-line player, and his pulls can be a difference maker. He has a great control of power and shape on the pull, can land it in bounds, and that's a difference maker when you get to this level.
You know, every coach is biased and has to talk up his players and has to have confidence in them, but James Highsmith has played and seen a lot of Ultimate himself, and he didn't shy away from telling us before this game that he feels like Robert Burridge is the best puller in college Ultimate right now.
He could be. He's got the chance to prove it today and tomorrow and the rest of this weekend. James Highsmith, Coach of the Year for Magnum. His presence has really instilled within this team a type of confidence that is quiet but intense, and the team really trusts him. Here the pull out the side, starting Aitos on the sideline.
Brandon Beers came through with that goal line block on the last point. Will bring the disc in on the sideline to give you a sense of how the wind has shifted. Before the last pull, this was very clearly an upwind point for the Auburn offense. And a junky, zony look here from Magnum. A blade, a little too ambitious. And look at the sellout effort right there from Eli Friedman, making sure that disc doesn't roll any further back and Magnum can take advantage of the field position. Here's Hill. Connects with Ipong Wong. Max Vogel up the line, tight space there to Zach Lloyd. Back to Vogel. Just a little too quick with that give and go. The wind rearing its head there, getting on the underside of the disc and curl. Vogel to Lloyd. And that's intercepted once again. Auburn on the doorstep, and Auburn is on the board. Will Bianca finds Lee Thomas, and Aitos has its first hold of the game.
An opportunity again there from Magnum. Unable to convert. Vogel's throws getting a bit away from him. Now Magnum to go downwind, their first offensive point. Let's talk a little bit about Auburn. They bring in, I think it's the smallest squad here of 18 on the men's division. Their season has been one of slow growth and organically building roles. They've got a strong 7 of their offensive line. Brandon Beers doing a lot of film study to get them prepared for this weekend, preparing their D-line with matchups. The other element of this Auburn team is their history and their notoriety as one of the most fun, most outwardly fun, expressive teams. It's a legacy built by Hank Womble.
Who can forget?
Who can forget Hank? Hearing from Brett Halsmeyer, hearing from their coach, they really, really lean in to this. We can't lose because we're here for each other. We love each other. We love the experience. They're going to be a tough team to rattle.
You can see the stylistic differences between these two teams when you talk to their leadership and get their perspective. Auburn so much looser and easier going as we see a deep shot here to Theo Shapinski. And that's an easy hold downwind for the Magnum offense.
Michigan is not always known for hucking. That's one of the areas where a lot of times they're willing to work patiently to take small shots, to hit tight break windows, move the disc side to side. But what they need to do sometimes is open it up, and there, Shapinski finding some room deep and Pathakuchi hitting him. That's a great start for this Magnum team.
Well, one of the stories of Magnum's season has been battling injury, and I know that's not unique to Magnum. All college ultimate programs have to deal with that over the course of a grueling schedule of tournaments, but Ashwin Pathakuchi, one of their star players, missed significant time this season due to injury. And just talking to him this week in the run-up to the tournament, the excitement, the enthusiasm, the vigor in his voice to be able to be back to full strength and a full contributor on the field, it was so palpable and so evident, and his enthusiasm was just bubbling over in terms of how excited he was to showcase what Magnum can display this weekend.
He himself has been a real showcase for what Magnum wants to be. He is the Callahan nominee and a wonderful leader for this team. They follow him anywhere.
Beers lets it roll and then picks it up. Hulsmeyer initiates. Off the line. Thomas over to Bianca. Back to Hulsmeyer. Everyone content to play catch in the handler space. Doesn't look like an intentional dominator right there. Stall count rising, but reset off the line to Thomas.
The Michigan defense here not allowing many looks downfield, forcing the handlers to have to maintain possession.
Thomas with the around to Hulsmeyer. Hulsmeyer, another step around backhand. The favorite throw of that point, and Will Bianca is in bounds. Auburn's back within one.
Auburn seems to have found a bit more of a groove here, coming out, getting broken a couple times, testing their resiliency there. They look cool and composed. The Michigan defense, it looks like, is really trying to limit those downfielders, forcing the disc to be swung. Swinging the disc in this wind is challenging. It is not the gimme that you're used to without any wind. It's dicier, and I think that's probably a choice by the Michigan defense to allow those, because the risk factor does increase greatly, and you're not losing that much.
I think it's a fantastic strategic decision. Challenge your opponent to prove that they can complete a higher volume of passes no matter what the yardage is, no matter what the gain is, in conditions like these. Will Bianca involved in both scores so far for Auburn, assisting on the first, catching the second, the 23-year-old grad student from Huntsville, Alabama. And Auburn with the pull. Some great distance here, despite the swirling wind. Almost down to the attacking goal line. Oh, that throw was nearly down, but Eli Weaver able to dig it out before any edge could hit the turf. Shapinski to Kean Johnson. Colucci to Pathakuchi. Back to Colucci. I beg your pardon, that's Noah Gross. Back to Pathakuchi. Pathakuchi's going to take an equipment timeout. And
what are we coming in? Give me that. Yeah, that's BO and then bar back.
A BO1.
Michigan offense on the doorstep so quickly. Nice inside shot from Pathakuchi to Shapinski. No difficulty in the win there for the Magnum offense.
Very, very clean offensive point. There was not a lot of pressure from Auburn early in the point, but they did get a quick look on Pathakuchi. A layout attempt missed, but Magnum really looking like they're in a...
The last two Magnum holds. Two important leaders for this Michigan squad, and we got interrupted talking about this earlier, the stylistic and philosophical differences and approaches between these two squads, Tyler. Auburn coming to this tournament as if they've got nothing to lose. They've got the inflatable animals on the sidelines. They're staying loose. Even if they lose this game, they're still happy to be here, no matter what. For Michigan, they are much more focused on the identity of Team 25, the 25th incarnation of the Magnum squad, and all of the work that's gone to get the team to this point and the pursuit of a national championship.
It really is very, very notably different. Auburn, when you say happy to be here, sometimes that can connote a team that has no expectations. For Auburn, it's different. They're happy to be here, but they're dangerous. It's that happy to be here mentality where we can't, hence those early breaks are big. Look at this. You can see Auburn's sidelines. They have a deficit to overcome, but it's like it's not there.
Mm-hmm. They're an air of carefree confidence that's really hard to achieve.
It is hard to achieve. You have to be disciplined about it almost. It's an odd sort of juxtaposition there, but they bought in. It's hard to manufacture that kind of thing, but once you get that momentum of buy-in, of goofiness, of silliness, of energy, it becomes infectious. Auburn with the pull.
Here's the Michigan offense working against a lot of ITOS personnel that actually crossed over from that last 0 point. As we see Hulsmeyer, and oh my goodness, a phenomenal bid there from Matthew Green, but he can't quite earn the block. A round throw snagged there. Possession saved for Magnum. Shapinski thought about the deep shot, instead opted for Kean Johnson underneath. Reset there to Owen O'Neill. O'Neill shooting deep. Two defenders in the area. Hulsmeyer comes down with the block. Auburn with a chance to break and tie.
Here we get to see Auburn play against this wind. They're going upwind here. We get to see a little bit of what their defensive offense has in store. Focusing on Hulsmeyer here in the center of the field. He clears.
Jonathan Halliday with the disc here, close to the backhand sideline. Stall count rising, looking for his options. Gets it off the line to Cody Shively. Shively to Hulsmeyer. How frequently has he been the release valve? And this time he pulls the trigger. 4 possible receivers in the area, off the fingertips of Cody Shively. And that break opportunity goes to waste. Magnum pulls the trigger once again. Will Bianca makes the block. The help defender making up ground and getting his hand on the disc before Magnum could secure the hold. Noah Gross, the receiver there in the area for White.
Both teams' calculations have become, let's put it, upwind. We saw that shot from Auburn to Evans, who is a primary target for them. Magnum also shooting deep, neither team converting.
Luke Thomas with the inside shot. Here's Bianca. Offensive playmaker for this team, takes the easy reset. Gets it right back at midfield. Holzmeyer. Both of these teams have both timeouts left here in this first half. No one's pulled the trigger yet. Holzmeyer moving the mark. A matchup of big men there with Kian Johnson, and that throw to space for Halliday is too far. Another break opportunity falls to the turf for Aitos. Kian Johnson, the big gainer. Off the line to Theo Shapinski. Inside shot to Gross. Same third shot to Kian Johnson. And after a couple turnovers, Michigan's O-line stabilizes. They're up 5-3.
You could see Michigan taking a look downfield there. They're almost being dared to throw those deep shots. Holzmeyer lurking in the back. But one thing you saw there is they went backwards. They lost about 15 yards going backwards off the initial play here. Michigan's first shot, a great D by Bianca on Gross. But that off-the-line throw is one that Magnum has really, really worked on, opening up the field a little bit and taking a little bit off the amount of yards they need to do to hit that relatively short, deep shot. That's the kind of Magnum I would expect is going to have the most success.
We see the first time out of the game taken here. Michigan with a 5-2 lead. And I'd be curious to see if you feel similarly. It felt like that last point, there were certainly several turnovers. This is only the second game of the day for both of these teams. Auburn lost 15-11 to Georgia. Michigan took care of business against UConn to the tune of 15-6. But late in that point, a lot of fatigue appeared readily visible. Lots of switching, not close, detailed, intense marking downfield, happy to pass off and switch rather than go step for step with your assignment. It just feels a little surprising to see that when we're barely halfway through the first half of the second game of nationals for these teams.
Well, for Michigan, they're coming off of a resounding win over UConn that really never tested them too much. Auburn, however, really battled against Georgia. That's a team they know well. They actually run a number of the same plays, so that's really two teams that know one another thoroughly. Auburn got into a pretty big hole and then battled back, being down, I think it was 10-5 to being down 11-10. Now you can expect battling back, that took some energy. And I think that's probably the source of some of this fatigue. You see Holzmeyer playing most every point. This is probably for them a must win.
And as you pointed out, this Auburn squad has one of the tightest rosters here at the Collegiate Championships. Just 18 bodies rostered for Aitos.
Now we talked about his pulls. Unfortunately, this one going out of bounds early, given Auburn, for them, a very fortunate field position. Need to be careful with my homerism here, as I've been a Michigan guy through and through.
You know, I was trying to keep that under wraps for everybody. You were keeping up the act for a little while.
You know, it's funny. I find myself being the most critical of this Michigan team because I know them so well and I know what they're capable of. Here, Auburn converting fairly easily. They're going to have to keep these pulls inbounds. That kind of short field position is not what's going to do it to get an upwinder.
You can see how quickly Auburn takes advantage of that field position. Just a quick inside break and then continuation after continuation. Luke Thomas into the end zone.
These are the moments that define which team is going to win the energy battle. We've gotten into the flow of the game. Score of 5-4. And you can feel a bit of a lull. We're starting to go through the points a little bit, and whichever team can really create their own energy, I think is going to close out this first half.
Nicholas Smith with the last 2 goals for Auburn Itos. And the only margin, the only difference so far in this game, Michigan's 2 breaks to start this one. Propelling Magnum to this 5-4 lead. Auburn has certainly had its chances to at least narrow that lead to 1 break, but has not been able to convert so far. O'Neal resets to Weaver. Up to Shapinski. Weaver. Shapinski gets it back. Weaver pulls the trigger. Pathacucci had his hands on it, and you can see the wind making its presence known. Pathacucci thought he could get that, and just that little gust on the underside of the disc making a typically standard 2-handed grab that much more difficult. Stall count rising for Green, and goodness, he finds Scott Evans, who didn't run through the disc, but maintained possession, and oh my goodness, Pathacucci got his hands on it, but Beers saved possession on the second attempt. And then he underthrows the deep shot. Magnum gets the disc back. Eli Weaver with the block on Evans. Shapinski all alone. Max Karnick finds Weaver. Inside shot, Beers so close to the poach block. But Magnum's in the red zone now. Shapinski on the goal line. A conference at the front cone, but a barbecue backhand to O'Neal. And that's all it takes for Michigan to hold there. Back to a 2-goal margin for Magnum.
That point really could have gone either way. It looked like Pathacucci had a clear goal, and just a drop on a dime from Eli Weaver. Weaver really carving up the defense there from Auburn. Auburn almost converting of their own, and another similar sort of could have been caught, but just slipped out of the hands from Evans, who's going to be one of their primary targets. A dominant athlete, a lot of size, and Magnum's able to keep the hold.
Second goal of the game for Owen O'Neal. If you'll remember, he took off to the end zone and caught the deep pass, converting the second break of the game to give Magnum a 2-0 lead.
Stylistically, to me, Auburn stands out from a lot of the teams here in that the give-and-go handler movement has become very dominant in college ultimate. It's a lot of handler weave. We see Brown basically leaning directly into that specifically to win. Magnum employing it, but Auburn's much more willing to hold the disc into high stall counts and find larger gainers, either underneath or putting it deep. It's notably different from most of the teams competing here.
It's a great point. It's almost like other programs feel the pressure rising at stall 4 or stall 5 or even sooner, whereas Auburn says, hey, stall 6, stall 7, I still got some time to find the next option.
A part of that comes from a deep chemistry they have with their 7 O-line players.
Here's Beers. Shooting deep for Hulsmeyer. Kean Johnson gets a hand on it. You saw the bottom of that disc just fall right out from underneath it. Traveling downwind. the elevation just dipping in the last 10 yards of that flight path. Vogel hits the first under. Here's a deep shot looking for Ipong Wong, but crosswind proving a little too tricky there.
Ipong incredibly fast. Unfortunately, very hard to throw it too far in front of him in this kind of a headwind.
There's some uncertainty about where Beers needs to bring this disc into play. It did roll out of bounds at that sideline, so he will need to bring it back in on the sideline. Holzmeyer with the underneath. Bianca. Here's Carson Owen. Finds Bianca. Same third shot and just too much juice, especially with that wind at his back. And another opportunity for Magnum to break here.
It's a lot of on-field time for this Auburn offense. That's going to be tough going into a long game here and a long weekend for a squad of only 18.
So far, Michigan Magnum 2 of 6 on break opportunities. Auburn 0 for 4. And that's the difference here in this Pool D matchup. The 3 seed and the 4 seed in the pool, the 9 and 16 overall, jockeying for position. Vogel finds Ipong Wong. Some confusion about whether or not there was a foul call.
Well, that's sort of awkward content.
I believe they're arguing about disc space.
What call? Who made a call?
I think it's a pick on his teammate, but
Who made a call?
he made a call.
You called foul. Okay. Are you contesting the foul? Foul. No contest.
Great work by our crew. Able to bring the on-field audio into your living room. Magnum trying to reset, and oh my goodness, not the way they drew it up, but Magnum saves possession. Nicholas Colucci staying with that on the second effort, getting the disc off, and now it's back in the hands of Vogel.
This is not Magnum's top throwing line, but they were getting it done. It wasn't gorgeous, but a tough turn there, giving Auburn the disc back.
Off Ipong Wong's hands, and Holzmeyer picks up for Itos. Beers. Holzmeyer with the disc on the sideline. One of our readings telling us that the wind at this moment is 13 miles an hour from the north. Not too much for Beers to handle on the goal line, though, as he finds in a small, tight space Luke Thomas falling over backwards. It was a long one, it was a gritty one, but Auburn found a way to hold.
Again, Auburn's average stall count release is probably between 5 and 7. They're willing to just hold and hold and hold and look and wait for the opportunity to present itself. And they're trusting their downfielders to be able to still get open. There it pays off. Often it's Holzmeyer, really just his size, able to get around most marks. I think it gives him a comfort level with the disc that he's going to be able to get whatever he needs to get to a teammate.
It's almost like he's impervious to those marks when he's got that much of a size advantage. And
yeah, for most people, his sight line, he's looking over everybody. He's able to survey the field. He probably isn't even feeling much of a mark there. Whereas most players, they're affected by it. He's comfortable. You can see it.
So when you're giving up 6 inches to a thrower or the person that you're marking, what's your mindset and what's your philosophy when you're on the mark?
Well, against someone like that, most of my career has been spent playing against people much taller. And so what you understand, you're going to give something up. And you're trying to choose what to give up. Especially in this downwind scenario, you're trying to give up stuff that's around, nothing downfield. So you're going to lean towards taking away those inside breaks.
We'll see how Holzmeyer marks and if he can get his hands on the disc, how his opponents mark him, as we see a zone here from the Itos defense. And so far this strategy playing right into their hands, getting into a trap situation.
Yeah, I like this look from Auburn, a very smart look. It takes Michigan out of what they're used to.
But how about Magnum? Just a scuba, a cross-field shot, and a downfield finish.
Downfield finish to a one-handed low grab. I can tell you that makes coaches nervous, but the completion's there. The wind not looking like it's much of a factor, but I can tell you in the booth, it's present. Oh, my mistake. It looks like that's a turn. I think he might have been out the back.
You had me fooled as well. The Magnum receiver out the back of the end zone. And Itos with yet another chance to break here in this first half. Thanks to our awesome production staff and friends at Commentary Source, we've got, oh my goodness, a better read on the statistics than normal, but that deep shot to Matthew Green falls incomplete.
Matthew Green, one of their top defenders, a magnificent handler defender. They're the target for that deep shot. Bartlett of Michigan Magnum making him go up early, missed that disc. Looked like Green really laid it out. Everything he had on that point, and some taking an injury sub, walking off gingerly.
Good to see him getting off under his own power. To be sure, not the first injury we've seen this game. James Hill, unfortunately, subbed himself out even earlier in this game, and we have not seen him return to the field.
No, we haven't. That would be a huge loss for this Michigan team.
Shapinski quarterbacking with Pathakuchi against this Itos zone, and very quickly from their own goal line all the way up to midfield. Noah Gross attacking, Shapinski giving and going. Easy finish there to Pathakuchi.
Really good flow there. Within the cup, really crashing, forcing that disc through the zone. Coaches will talk often about how to beat zones. You can go over, around, and through. Michigan's chemistry within their offensive core, their throwing acumen really allows them to slice through the small areas and go right through that zone. Let's take another look at that out the back.
And you see the red line is actually the boundary.
Unfortunately, I do not see the red line. As a red-green colorblind person, this would be a challenge. I've played on fields like this, and I can just not see the line whatsoever.
So Michigan with a 7-5 lead here in the first half against Auburn. 2 breaks to start this game, and that's been the difference so far. Auburn unsuccessful on any of its 5 break opportunities in this first half.
They had their best opportunity on that point where Matt Green took off deep, unfortunately missing. And having to sub himself off. That was a throw from Brett Holzmeyer, probably the best upwind huck we've seen. But some pressure from Bartlett causing that turn and giving Magnum the hold that they need. Keep this 7-5 differential. If they can get this, they'll take half.
Vogel with a pull that rolls just shy of the brick mark. Thomas bringing the disc into play. Resets to Beers. Lots of offensive personnel crossing over here for Michigan Magnum, Shapinski, Pathakuchi, Kian Johnson loading up this line. Here's Smith. That swing a little dicier than normal in this wind. Back to Thomas. Bianca continues. Hulsmeyer's there. Crossfield shot to Beers, and that is a coffin corner finish for Auburn Itos.
Kian Johnson there matching up against Halsmeyer. They give a high five at the end. That's a good battle of two tall athletes. Kian coming from an Ultimate family. His dad, Bruce Johnson, a Michigan, an old Michigan alum, helping even found the team. Kian, part of a lineage of Magnum history that few can rival.
If you're on James Highsmith's staff, a position that you've been in the past.
That's right.
I don't think you can be too upset with the finishing goal or the finishing pass that completed that score for Auburn. A crosswind, back corner shot that Hulsmeyer had to nail absolutely perfectly, and other throwers have thrown out the back repeatedly over the course of this game.
Yeah, if you're going to force them to take a shot to score a goal, that's the kind of shot you're gonna allow, and you're going to permit and say, okay, if they score with a bunch of those, well, they earned it. But it was clear from the point you could see Michigan's really trying to force the underneaths, pressure them, force the disc through the handlers a lot. I think that's a positive point for Michigan. But Auburn's not unhappy with it either. I think they're used to Brett Hulsmeyer taking those kind of shots. It's clear they feed the disc to him a lot. He can survey the field. He'll hold the disc to high stall counts. Both teams look fairly comfortable.
And not only that, that Auburn offense worked the disc off the trap sideline all the way over to that weak side to open up the opportunity for that cross-field back corner goal shot.
Yeah, they can be happy with that point for sure. And what's interesting is Auburn is not your normal team here. They are doing things differently than we see a lot of teams doing. And so their comfort level doing the stuff that might be uncommon might be much higher than most teams think or are used to.
Michigan with a chance to take half. Kian Johnson is there.
That is an excellent throw from Eli Weaver. When he is on, Michigan is truly dangerous to any team. Kian Johnson. Excellent target downfield, big presence. Has really developed.
Johnson, one of multiple key players on this Magnum squad that battled injury all semester long.
He did.
And getting healthy at exactly the right time to produce offensive holds like that one is exactly what James Highsmith and the Magnum faithful want to see.
Magnum going into half clearly confident. Their energy is high. You can see them cheering back and forth on these sidelines. They're feeling good. Auburn not out of it.
So Pool D action heating up here at Eline Soccer Park just north of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Auburn Itos trailing Michigan Magnum 8-6, but they're still having fun.
What would it look like if a competitive sport didn't mean a choice? Between beauty and brutality, style and steel. Between calling yourself out and clawing to stay in. What if there was a game that found balance? Between spirit and sport. and elation. Like a disc dancing on air.
We now have evolved into a team sport of a game called Ultimate.
It stands by itself in that it is like no other game.
Between perfect passes and devastating drops. Like the balance we so desperately needed, we had no choice but to create it ourselves. Long live grit and grace. Long live Ultimate.
Here with Ulti World right now here with Jake Kavak. They're up 8-6 to the Michigan Magnum up over Auburn Ionos here. How, just your general thoughts there on that first half?
Yeah, this is a tough team. We got out to a quick start with 2 quick breaks, and then we kind of settled into our kind of what you'd expect with an up and down game. But I like the pressure we're giving them. Our offense is looking really smooth, and yeah.
What do you think is going to take Magnum to that next level to kind of get them to advance here in the second half and continue to put on the gas?
Yeah, well, I see we're getting turns on defense. We just need to figure out a way to complete this upwind break. And so that's going to take some nice movement from the disc side to side or a nice big throw from us. We need to shut down their big players. Brett, I believe, is getting a problem for us, and we had a big defender go down the first half, so we're hoping to keep putting pressure on him and making him work hard.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. Back up to you, Ian.
Thanks so much, Adekale. 8-6 here at halftime between Michigan and Auburn. 2 breaks for Magnum. The difference so far in this game, second half action, coming right up.
There is a place where we are us at our best.
A place where everyone is welcome.
Regardless of age, shape, skin color, or anything else that tries to box people in.
A place where we defy the odds, defy the naysayers.
And even defy gravity.
A place where it's accepted that success
doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave, to the determined.
A place that knows grit, knows grace, knows bright lights, and knows empty bleachers.
A place where we remember to laugh.
Where we learn to trust.
Learn to high-five strangers.
And eventually, even learn to fly.
A place where character, community, and competition
are all as balanced as a disc in flight.
That place isn't in a stadium or on a field.
That place is in the spirit of our players.
Because we don't just play Ultimate, we live Ultimate.
Welcome back to Eline Soccer Park. Pool D action. The 9 seed Michigan Magnum squaring off against the 16 seed Auburn Itos, battling for that 3rd spot heading into the bracket. Second game of the day for both of these teams. Difference so far in this one, Tyler. Sounded like a broken record, but it's Magnum's 2 breaks.
Those 2 early breaks were huge. That first point layout D, just an astounding opening from Michigan Magnum. Taking a look here, it's an interesting read-through of these stats. The holds 6-6, the clean holds 3-4. You can see the wind playing a factor. What's your takeaway here?
I'm impressed by the performance of the Stars, specifically on the Michigan Magnum side. Theo Shapinski, Ashwin Pathakuchi, Kean Johnson, those guys have shown up to play, and they've made their presence known on the stat sheet. Shapinski and Pathakuchi connecting on 3 of Magnum's 8 scores. Johnson and those fellas involved in other scores for Magnum as well. And let's take a look at the other action. Pool play around this Eline Soccer Park. We've got a quick look at the women's division. We've got some more great coverage from the women's division coming later this afternoon. We'll be excited to bring you the British Columbia and Carleton Syzygy matchup, the big 3-6 game from Pool C. And here's a look at the men's pools as you keep your eyes on Pool D. Pittsburgh is the 1 seed overall in this pool. They are the 4 seed overall in the tournament. Georgia, the 5 seed, Michigan, the 9, Auburn, the 16, and UConn, the 20. Michigan taking care of business against UConn 15-6 this morning, and Auburn falling to Georgia 15-11.
The surprise, probably not to them, of the tournament in the terms of upsets, though, is Washington over NC State. NC State looking like they had control. Washington storming back on a lot of the throws from Tony Vaneri, really establishing himself as willing to take any deep look, no matter how open. But they get that win. It's an upset. Washington's going to be a challenger.
Field 6 here at the Eline Soccer Park, the site of some fantastic matchups the rest of this afternoon. As I just mentioned, the UBC squad facing off against Carleton Syzygy, and Pittsburgh and Sabah going head-to-head against Georgia, the 2 teams seated higher than those 2 teams playing in front of us right now, battling for the driver's seat and full control of Pool D going into day 2 of Nationals.
Now, what can we expect from this second half? Again, a battle of energy. Both teams have talked about bringing that energy and owning the sidelines. Magnum doing it. We've seen them back and forth, call, response. They've got a large sideline. Auburn, smaller sideline, but they've got their inflatables. They've got a joy de vivre that is driving them. They have, in their own words, nothing to lose. And now's their time, to prove it. They are down. They dropped a game early, and if they're going to live up to what they've talked about, this is their moment to continue to be joyous, loose, have fun, and celebrate themselves, hopefully for them, to a victory.
James Highsmith and the Magnum squad, all business. They told us in the run-up to this game, the team's motto all spring has been win every quarter. And metaphorically speaking, we've got the start of the 3rd quarter right here. We'll see whether or not Magnum can bring the energy as its offense gets set to receive with a 2-break advantage here at the start of the second half.
Having been a coach of the University of Michigan and then seeing subsequent coaches come through, James Highsmith, Parker Howard is here with him as well. He was a former coach with him, moved out to Seattle. It's interesting for me to see the adaptation of this team to fit what they bring. And to me, Highsmith and his fellow coaches have instilled a level of confidence and almost maturity with regard, especially to their offensive presence, that really has catapulted Michigan higher into the bracket play. They made semis at fall. This is another opportunity for them to really prove that they are at that new higher echelon. I think a lot of teams can write them off, thinking they're a gritty team, but they're not necessarily polished. Here's a chance for Magnum to prove that they are, in fact, up there with the big dogs.
Well, that semifinals appearance back in December in Norco, California, the program's best national championships finish in its history. And I know a lot of the guys admitted wasn't their best effort facing off against Georgia. A lot of execution errors, as we see one there from Theo Shapinski, and he and Pathacucci and all the others as motivated as ever to redeem themselves, earn another spot on the national stage, and turn in a better showing with a championship on the line. Here's Garrett Nix. Resets. The deep shot here from John Shields hanging. 6 potential receivers in the area. And that one goes out of bounds. Owen O'Neill touching it after it went out of bounds. Michigan will start on its own cone.
It's not a terrible decision. This wind is playing a factor. Unfortunately, he lofted it too high, just caught in the wind.
And to be fair to Shields, he's not the only thrower we've seen have trouble hucking that direction this game, but there's no difficulty on this deep shot to Kean Johnson. Ashwin Pathakuchi with the disc on the goal line, and just too cute and too eager. Luke Thomas comes in with the block at the last second. And Auburn is going to take its first time out of the second half with the disc on its own goal line.
Those are the mistakes you have to iron out, and they're going to have to pay attention to that kind of error. You cannot have that if you're going to go deep into a tournament. Good to have it early, but you got to iron it out. A great huck there. Weaver just perfectly hitting these throws. When he's on, he's horrifying. But then that late, unforced error, got to clean it up.
It feels like Auburn is a team that will let you get away with something like that as we get yet another look at Shields' deep shot sailing out of bounds, and then Pathakuchi getting the disc from Kean Johnson on the goal line and throwing into coverage there. Owen O'Neill was attacking the space, but the Auburn defender able to get a paw on it and knock it down. And you have to think that an opponent like Georgia or Pittsburgh in this pool is going to be a lot more ruthless in making Michigan pay for a turnover like that one. Luke Thomas will get the disc in play here for Auburn Itos. Clear out and streak across for Matthew Green. Green throws into a diving poach. Michigan Magnum gets the disc back, shoots into the end zone, and Theo Shapinski is there.
An excellent block there from Bartlett, just reading the play, knocking the disc. Immediately caught by Weaver, who just sends it straight a laser into the end zone, turning the tides instantly.
And it's moments like those that, as you see Bartlett with the recognition, peeling off and getting the block, and no hesitation there on the shot to Shapinski. It's moments like those that frustrate coaches, and when you see timeouts go to waste.
It's painful. It's painful for a coach. There you see, during that timeout, Magnum regrouped, talked it out, and it's clear they ramped up the intensity. What a wonderful shot there, too. We got to see the look of the thrower, Bartlett peeling in. Disc tip to Weaver, who immediately sends it into the end zone. Just a heartbreaker there when you've got the disc to go upwind and potentially cut that lead from 8-6 to 8-7. Then in a moment, it's 9-6.
Heck of a swing. We'll see if and how Itos can punch back as Beers catches the centering pass and swings it back to Thomas for the Itos offense. There's Hulsmeyer shooting deep. That was an easy hold for Auburn. Right into the hands of Lee Thomas. And Itos is back within 2.
Hulsmeyer establishing himself as a thrower here. He's hitting very small spots on the field in this wind, blading them in, hitting receivers in the chest, almost like a quarterback. The dangerous part here is it's a 9-7 game, 2 breaks, but with this wind, if Auburn's able to get an upwinder, the likelihood they get the downwinder is high. So realistically, 1 break can often lead to a second, unless Magnum can get that next hold. The game is not out of reach by any means.
The mind of a coach at work, always imagining the next most challenging scenario, the next most optimistic scenario.
Well, I can tell you, a 9-7 lead is nerve-wracking because you never know. You can get an energy lull. You can get complacent. You can expect things to go your way. It can feel okay until it's not, right? So you really got to control these early moments. You got to prevent that. Get your own break, instill your own energy, because it's a dangerous lead.
You made this comment in the first half, Tyler. We've barely seen Brett Holzmeier leave the field. And he's back out there once again for Itos, pulling this one. And a key part of a lane poach here to get the Magnum offense to swing the disc to start. Here's Bartlett. Underneath to Kean Johnson. Bartlett up the line, makes the grab through a little bit of contact. Foul upheld.
Bartlett's a player with Michigan Magnum that we haven't said his name too much this game, but that's not because in any way he is an outlier of a player. He is a stalwart here from Michigan Magnum. They lean on him. He's a broad-shouldered thrower, also an athlete downfield. We saw him get that block earlier.
O'Neal tried to get it off the line. Shapinski gets there before Holzmeier does. And that cross-field shot into the wind, just a little too difficult. Looking for Pathakuchi from 5 yards outside the end zone, and it falls to the turf out of bounds.
It's a very narrow window he's looking to hit there, into the wind.
Holzmeier on his own goal line. Gives and goes and gets it back. The Magnum defense content to just give up these little handler dink and dunks. Dozens of yards from their own goal line as the upfield shot is just too far, and Aaron Bartlett gets another hand on it. How many blocks does he have this half? At least 2. Shapinski hangs one up there. O'Neal's all by himself. Another 3-goal margin for Magnum.
Auburn getting its looks, but unable to work the disc much farther than half. The wind wreaking havoc. Their play style not allowing them too many opportunities to connect too many downfield passes. Here we see Magnum's errant throw just a little far. The wind pushing that disc away. But after the turn, again, Magnum's able to find the end zone with fairly good ease, because after that turn, Auburn's kind of scrambling.
Second block of the half for Aaron Bartlett. 3rd goal of the game for Owen O'Neal, and 3rd assist of the game for Theo Shapinski.
Owen O'Neal is a real workhorse downfield. He's developed himself as well into a thrower. He's a dual threat. He'll really take what's given, and there he was given a lot of end zone to work with. Took another goal.
You know, we've talked a lot about the impact of the wind on this game, but something that James Highsmith and Theo Shapinski pointed out to us before this was, hey, I mean, we're from the Great Lakes. This is the weather we practice in all the time.
Absolutely.
We can make comments about, oh, this forecast looking a little abnormal, but this is how they train. This is where they get their practice reps. So they've got to be used to these kinds of conditions.
Absolutely, and this right now, this temperature, this wind, this overcast nature, I mean, besides the fact that the field looks nice, everything feels like Great Lakes Regionals.
Sure. A tournament that Michigan Magnum won handily, as we see the deep shot here to Nick Smith. That's the easiest hold we've seen for Auburn Itos all game long, Tyler.
The Auburn fans screaming for this Auburn team on a great huck. Easy connection there. Fairly effortless. I think Magnum might have been trying to see if they could apply a little different pressure. Up until now, they've really tried to force the disc back. Yipeng Wang there defending the deep. He is probably Magnum's fastest outright player. But they might have been forcing him deep. Hard to say.
Well, with all the deep and mid-range shots that we've seen sail out the back of that end zone, it's not necessarily the worst strategy.
Exactly. They're able to connect on a tough shot. Make it look easy, though.
Third goal of the game for Nick Smith. Luke Thomas with the assist. Auburn back within 2. 21 minutes from soft cap. Stay with us here. Ultiworld's continuing coverage of the 2022 USA Ultimate College Championships.
Ultiworld's live streaming coverage of the college championships is presented in part by AGW Ultimate, who wants to remind you to say no to Big Ultimate. You can find them at agwultimate.com.
Coming out of this timeout, Auburn Itos within 2 against Michigan Magnum. Auburn yet to convert a single break, and we're seeing the sidelines for Michigan Magnum come alive here, Tyler.
It's funny. This cheer is actually, I think, in part mocking me when I was trying to teach a little bit of zone offense, and I gotta say, I love it.
Auburn Itos pulling to Michigan Magnum in white. Owen O'Neill centering to Weaver. Little lane poach there. Weaver finds Gross underneath. O'Neill gives and goes, but Gross just a tad too far for Shapinski. And Brett Holzmeyer picks up. He finds Beers. Will this be the time when Auburn Itos converts a break?
They're getting chances. They're getting looks. That's another inside look from Magnum that doesn't pay off.
Here's Nick Smith at midfield. Shooting deep for Beers. It's bending to the right. Beers clap catches it. O'Neill had his hands on it, and we're going to have a conversation about a foul call.
This will be interesting to see.
So it looked on first glance, Tyler, to me, like Beers had possession, and then O'Neill swatted the disc out of his hand.
Okay. So my ruling, that was a foul with possession. So we're here.
And I think the observer agreed with that take. The foul call is upheld. Itos has its first break of the game, and they're back within 1 with the wind at their backs.
10-9. Auburn fans got to be happy with that when they get their upwinder, and now they're pulling downwind. Magnum forced to go upwind. The game is afoot.
So this is exactly what you were talking about, Tyler. You weren't feeling comfortable when Michigan had the 9-7 lead. You weren't feeling comfortable at 10-8. And now Auburn's converted a break and is pulling with the wind at its back.
I don't feel comfortable now. But that's what we're here to see. These games are the best. College national championships are all about this kind of battle.
Heck of a stat line so far for Brandon Beers in this windy game. Getting some love from his teammate, Bianca. 2 goals, 2 assists, 1 block. Many thanks to our production staff and our friends at Commentary Source helping to make all of this information gathering and sharing possible. If you haven't done so already, think about subscribing to Ultiworld. So much effort and resources and planning and sacrifice goes into bringing this live coverage, post-game analysis and reporting, and everything to your device and into your living room. Michigan's O-line moving mostly upwind here. Weaver breaks the mark to Shapinski. Shapinski with an inside shot to Bartlett. The 20-year-old freshman throws cross field to Kean Johnson. That went right past Weaver's face. Could have been an unforced turnover there. Shapinski toes the line.
Magnum playing right at the margins here.
Using every yard of the field. Johnson to Pathacucci. He attacks up line. And he falls down trying to get it back. But did Owen O'Neill get there? The observers say yes, it's up.
My goodness. I thought we were about to see a turn there as Pathacucci stumbled, but Owen O'Neill saving the day for Magnum's upwinder. What a possession for Michigan Magnum. I mean, how many times did they almost turn it over? Here we see that upline shot. Stumbling, bumbling, just missing it, but Owen O'Neill, did he get there? It was tight.
I believe he got that bottom hand underneath it.
I believe he did. I believe he did.
Pathacucci shaking his head, can't believe how difficult it was for him to maintain his footing and try and recover. It was almost like he was deciding to give up on the upline cut. He had committed to it, and then when the throw didn't go up right away, I think mentally he started to refocus on moving on to the next clear out. And then when the disc was up, it almost caught him by surprise.
I think so. I think so. It caused him to lose that footing just a little bit. What a pivotal moment for this Michigan team. Earlier in the point, they had a throw just whiz by, I think you said, Eli Weaver's face and almost hit his nose. I mean, later in the point, they caught a disc barely towing it in. I think that was Shapinski, or was it Burridge on the sideline?
Shapinski towed the grab on this near sideline here in front of us as Michigan pulls. Its defense is out there, and Auburn's offense is working upwind. Here's Holzmeyer. Nick Smith. He had the assist on Auburn's only break of this game. Luke Thomas finds Holzmeyer, big gainer. Over to Bianca.
Auburn's offense flowing nicely here.
Holzmeyer holds up. Disc in the hands of Beers now. Right next to the brick mark. See the Michigan defender switching and rolling to guard against the handler attack.
You know, I have to take back what I said before about Auburn and their stall count, their looks. Here they are using more of a dominator with Beers and Holzmeyer to go on this upwinder, and it pays off.
Bianca into the end zone for Luke Thomas. And that is a confident hold for Auburn Itos. And once again, they'll be pulling with the wind at their backs.
The game has shifted to becoming a downwind game to an upwind game. That's 2 in a row, each team hitting one. Auburn feeling good, and it shows.
Bianca, such an important offensive playmaker for this Itos squad. Involved in 2 scores in the second half. Luke Thomas with 2 goals and 2 assists. Boy, you know what? If you can escape this game without a single turn, that's an accomplishment on your stat line.
Yeah, absolutely it is. These conditions are ripe for turnovers.
So Theo Shapinski has been a real difference maker in this Pool D matchup for Michigan Magnum, connecting frequently with his partner in crime, Ashwin Pathakuchi, distributing and receiving the disc, Tyler.
You know, I got to play a little bit against Shapinski. He tried out for Ann Arbor's hybrid, the finalists from last Nationals for the club season in mixed. I can tell you, I couldn't do anything. I mean, he is probably one of the most well-rounded players on this team, if not the most. He's got a full arsenal of throws. He's incredibly athletic. His first step is fast, and he knows where to go. He knows how to use it. He's pretty lethal out there.
Shapinski not the only player to have tried out or played for Michigan Hybrid as well and been involved in that team's success. And there's been a real resurgence and revitalization with that mixed community. And one of the crowning achievements was its finals appearance in San Diego last fall.
I can tell you, a lot of teams that ascend to a next level, we'll talk about certain games, certain moments that really define it. And for the Michigan Ultimate community, Michigan Ultimate Magnum making the quarters against beating an Oregon team in pre-quarters really set the stage in their minds that, hey,
we're
back
back in 2019, right?
Exactly, we're legit. Ann Arbor's hybrid making the finals really proved to people, because people would say, you know, we're good, but that game solidified in their mind like, oh yeah, no, we are good. And I think this Michigan team is going through the same sort of thing where they're really buying into the fact that they can compete with anyone.
Well, and not only those games, but deep shot here from Weaver to Shapinski. Green giving chase. Shapinski to the high point. He's on the attacking goal line now. O'Neal gives and goes. Shapinski staying calm, throwing out to space. Weaver is there. Yet another upwind hold for Michigan Magnum.
And look at Shapinski. I mean, he makes an outstanding catch going deep and then very calmly guides the offense into that upwinder. Absolutely crucial. And you know what's interesting with these upwinders is the downwinders feel like you can punt and you can play D. The upwinders feel like you have to maintain possession because it's going to be hard to stop the other team from going downwind. Magnum here holds again, and the pressure flips immediately back to Auburn.
Weaver and Shapinski doing all the heavy lifting on that point. Weaver with the beautiful deep shot. Shapinski making the grab and then maintaining the composure to find Weaver at the front cone, put him out to space. Michigan once again enjoying a 2-goal advantage.
Weaver's shots this game have been outstanding, and when he's on, Magnum's on.
Theo Shapinski with 2 goals and 3 assists so far in this game. Eli Weaver with 1 goal and 2 assists, 2 blocks to go along with that stat line as well.
All of this without probably Michigan's best defender, James Hill, on the field after an injury sub early.
A defender that was so instrumental in hybrid success and
That's
also
right.
in Michigan Magnum's run to the semifinals back in December.
That's right. He's outstanding. I think it's going to be truly unfortunate for this Magnum team and for the Nationals field not to get to see him if he is out.
Luke Thomas will bring this one in at the brick mark. Marked by Max Vogel. Holzmeyer isolated. Reset here to Beers. Holzmeyer in the handler space. Around to Beers. Communicating with his fakes. Resetting to Thomas. Holzmeyer at midfield. Uncorks the deep shot. But Michigan's defender, Matza, first to the area. That one sailing out of bounds. He had the step-for-step advantage.
Now, Zach Lloyd on Magnum, number 1, is not necessarily the person you'd think would be matched up on Holzmeyer, but there he was, and Holzmeyer just working around that handler space.
And Vogel's swing too far for James Baker Jr. Itos with the disc on the goal line. A gift for Auburn. Thomas to Holzmeyer. Auburn's back within 1.
Magnum had an opportunity there. That short field turnover's painful to have. And the pressure flips back to Magnum to go upwind. Now, notably, the wind has decreased. We are no longer feeling that 13+ mile-an-hour wind that we were before. There's that turn right on the goal line. But Magnum has to go back in this relatively light upwind. It's probably even a misnomer at this point to call it an upwind point, wouldn't you say?
I'd agree with that. There have been moments in this game where it's very clearly felt upwind, downwind. There have been other moments where I felt things swirling from up here on our perch, just maybe 15, 20 yards off the sideline. No matter what, I don't think any pass that anyone throws here can just be a casual wrist flip. Every single pass, you've got to step into it, you've got to get low, and you have to completely follow through. Otherwise, the wind's going to take it.
Yeah, you have to give an extra bit of focus, and that does prevent you maybe from your shorter, quick, no pivot backhand around, the wrist flips, the throw and goes from the forehand, but it's nowhere near the intensity it was before.
Bartlett comes out of the side stack. Beg your pardon, the split stack, and Kean Johnson gets the next under. And that one goes off the hands of Kean Johnson. Auburn with the disc at midfield and a chance to tie. Just under 5 minutes from the soft cap. Here's Nick Smith. Finds Will Bianca.
I think there might have been a travel call there that is overruled.
Under the new rule set, Will Bianca is going to call a timeout right away.
As a Michigan fan, this is painful, but as a commentator, I think that's the right call. And this is a great moment for Auburn here. I mean, 12-11, you've gotten looks, you've gotten chances, and here's one.
No timeouts.
Oh my goodness.
So, it's add 3.
No. So it's 3. You add 3 to the stall.
What is that putting it on the ground mean? Is that like a...
No. Like play stop.
How do we not have a timeout?
Because you use 2 timeouts.
Just half? Yeah, you guys
yes.
have to clear the field. I think.
But we use. There's 2 timeouts. They have 0 timeouts this half. Yeah.
But you said acknowledge it, right?
You called a timeout and then you asked me.
That's fine.
And I gave the wrong answer, but we stopped play there. So yeah.
So add 3.
So add 3 to the stall count, which was 0.
Okay.
So we're saying
We're
saying 5. Okay.
So back to where you were.
Interesting.
We love this game of Ultimate. So Auburn called a timeout. It did not have one to use. Rather than losing possession under the current rule set, the disc comes back to the thrower, adding 3 to the stall count when the timeout was called. So the disc came back in Bianca's hands. He had called timeout at stall 2, and the disc came back in at stall 5. He was very easily able to keep the disc moving, and that disc goes right over Theo Shapinski's shoulder into the hands of Scott Evans. And for the first time since 0-0, this game is all tied up, 12-12.
12-12, the game is here. The game is live. Auburn's back in it. Michigan walking back to the line. Time for them to hold. Auburn feeling good.
Heck of a time for Scott Evans' first goal of the game, the 21-year-old senior from Robertsdale, Alabama. Someone the captains identified as one of the most improved defensive players on this squad. They feel his defensive prowess hasn't been talked about enough in the national conversation.
Well, he's a big boy out there. They've been looking to him downfield for those upwinders. He's a target, and I think that they used him. I saw him playing extremely good defense in the earlier game that they played against Georgia. He got a run-through block on Austin Knabb. And
that's not easy to do.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's clear he can do things on this field. There, he's proven it, and we've got a tie ball game. Magnum here huddling, prepping. They've spent the entirety of this spring prepping for moments like these. James Highsmith talking about living for this type of competition. So now it's on him to get them in the right place for this point. 12-12, you gotta love it. One of the big things that James was talking about going into this tournament was trusting your systems, trusting your teammates, and now's the time when that trust pays off.
Just another look at the game-tying goal here. Nick Smith into the end zone for Scott Evans. And it's our first tie since 0-0. Nick Smith with 2 assists in the first half. Beg your pardon, 2 goals in the first half and 2 assists and a goal here in the second half. The soft cap horn did go off, so we're going to have a game to 14 here.
12-12, first team to 2.
Adding
after
1
this
to the highest score here. This point has already started, so someone will be taking a 13-12 lead. Deep shot here. Weaver looking for Johnson. Not connecting. 2 defenders in the area and the wind at the back of that throw, pushing it just too far. Auburn with a full field to go. Here's Holzmeyer. Can Auburn take its first lead of the game at 13-12? Green to Bianca. This 18-man roster fighting through the wind. Holzmeyer shooting deep. Matthew Green is there!
Bartlett had a straight shot to that, couldn't get around the bodies. Matt Green catches. What a beautiful throw from Holzmeyer, who's just been working around that disc. He just lurks in the middle of the field, finds his spots, and there putting up just a gorgeous throw. Here he is looking, keying in, and just floating it out in front. Bartlett almost able to catch up.
Holzmeyer reading the wind perfectly. The right angle on that upwind backhand. Bartlett was giving chase, but Matthew Green able to get 2 hands on that one. Heck of a time for his first goal of the game.
This is the power of perseverance from an Auburn team that, as they said, they just don't quit. They hang in there, they hang in there. And it's paying off for them. They just believe in each other. They, you know, Brett Holzmeyer is making a case for himself as one of the standouts here. He's been doing it all, and you know, you look at him, what would you expect? He's going to be a downfield receiving threat. Here, this game, he's been basically the point person in the middle of the field, constantly getting a little bit of yardage gain and then distributing.
Brett Holzmeyer, 3 assists in the first half, 2 assists and 1 goal here in the second half. Shouldering the load offensively for Aitos, and no surprise, he's back out there for this D-point.
Was that 3 or 4 points total that he hasn't contributed on, either catching or throwing?
Bartlett had his throw. It appeared on first glance to be a point block, but we do have a foul call.
I felt my fingers bend back. I think I got all this.
All right, you want a rolling?
I would like to go to you guys.
Observer rolling. That was not a foul. The disc is over there. Hold on. Stop. The disc is, where did it go out of bounds? Up there.
Luke Thomas, the 24-year-old grad student from Oxford, Alabama,
14 to a 3-2-1 ground check.
with a point block, emphatic with his cleat. And Auburn has 30 yards to go to win this game. Up the line to Holzmeyer. Now just 3 yards outside the end zone. Will Bianca is there! Auburn pulls off the upset! 14-12, Aitos takes down Magnum.
When Auburn needed to get hot, they did. Brett Holzmeyer making him just what an impact he's had, but his supporting cast was there with him, using each other, trusting each other. The Auburn system pays off, taking down Michigan Magnum.
I tell you what, Tyler, Michigan felt in control of that game for about 75% of the duration, maybe even longer. And then they just kind of fell asleep at the wheel in the final quarter of the game.
You know, we saw the mistakes come late. We saw the drops. We saw the Eli Weaver miss on that deep downwinder. It was the wrong time for them to come. You know, they were hitting everything early. They looked crisp, and something changed. And things started to go awry. And I'm not sure what to attribute it to. They got a whole tournament ahead of them still. But what a win for Auburn.
This Aitos squad, just 18 healthy bodies traveling to Wisconsin this weekend. Missing O-line starters Ashton Scott and John Michael Williamson to knee injuries. But no matter for Auburn, this squad is now 1-1 after taking down the 9 seed Michigan Magnum. And how about the performance throughout this game, Tyler, from Brett Holzmeyer?
You know, he reminds me of basketball centers that can distribute the ball, a Jokic, other players that, you know, you expect a big to be a downfield receiver. Holzmeyer really just found his gaps in the middle of the field, was a constant threat, a constant reset, able to hold the disc, and then hit these throws. These throws have been fantastic all game. I mean, he's outstanding.
Well, and it's interesting. Holzmeyer is perhaps best known for his defensive prowess at the semi-pro level. Last season in 2021, he was tied for the league lead in blocks. And of course, he did have some blocks in this game, but it was all about that distribution in this game. And it just goes to show how multifaceted and well-rounded his game is, and how valuable it is to this 18-man Aitos squad.
You talk about a problem. I think it's an overused term, but Holzmeyer, I mean, what are you going to do? In that game, it looked like Magnum's game plan was to back him, but he really just got what he wanted. And if you front him, what's going to happen? He's going to go. Now, maybe that's the play. Maybe that's the play. Michigan Magnum now has to regroup. This is a test of their resiliency. I talked to Cody Mills, and he gave the compliment that Magnum is a team he respects because they are gritty. They are resilient. They do not give up. And this is the test. This is the test here for them going forward.
Resilient is the word that Theo Shapinski and other leaders on this team use to describe this team in the run-up to the college championships. Big day ahead of them tomorrow against Georgia and Pittsburgh. But right now, Auburn Aitos celebrating the Pool D victory. The 3-seed Auburn over the 2-seed Michigan. 14-12 for Tyler Kinley and our entire crew. Ian Toner saying thank you so much for joining us.